suggested it would. Members, we turn now to new part 5. Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. The next important policy that we need to discuss as part of this debate about housing affordability is really set out in part 5 of this housing legislation amendment bill. And sir, what this part does is it amends the Overseas Investment Act to ban non-resident foreign buyers from buying existing homes.
Point of order, the Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
I apologise to the member on his feet. I draw the same Standing Order to you, Standing Order 3022, and suggest to you that the Overseas Investment Act's purpose is nothing to do with housing affordability, and in particular the references to sensitive land, which generally is farming land and outstanding landscape areas, is very unlikely ever to have houses built on it, and therefore is out of scope of this bill.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Chairman, first of all, and I think perhaps the most substantive issue here is that these amendments have been ruled in order by you and by the Office of the Clerk, and you are the sole determinant of relevance in these matters, and being bullied by ministers should not change your ruling. You have already ruled on these matters, and they have been ruled in order, and challenging your ruling by ministers is unacceptable.
To be clear, I haven't given any ruling on this yet, although except it's been through the clerk's process. I certainly don't feel bullied by my parliamentary colleague, the Honourable Mike Woodhouse.
Would be inappropriate.
No, well, I'm going to take some time to consider this matter momentarily.
Thank you. Is he still speaking? As I was saying, Mr Chairman.
Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. The government is clearly in denial on this issue, as they are with so many aspects of the housing crisis. They refuse to acknowledge what every New Zealander knows, and that is that non-resident foreign buyers are a significant force in the housing market, and that unquestionably, as the kind of marginal buyers, they are having the effect of driving up house prices. Now, a Cabinet Minister was interviewed on Radio New Zealand a few weeks ago on this issue, and she was asked by Guy Espiner, the co-presenter of Morning Report, what's the good bit about even one home being sold to a non-resident foreign buyer? And the Minister couldn't answer. She had no answer, because there is no answer. There is no benefit to New Zealand or New Zealanders allowing people who are not residents or citizens of this country to sit on the other side of the world and buy and sell our homes for capital gain. There is simply no benefit in that. And so many countries have recognised that it's the duty of government to look after its citizens, and that it's the responsibility of government to ensure that markets are allowed to work properly and deliver the benefits that are expected from them. Australia has the policy of banning non-resident foreign buyers from buying existing homes. That policy has effectively channeled $30 billion of foreign direct investment into the construction of new properties, new homes in Australia in the last 12 months. Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia all have restrictions on non-resident foreign buyers buying residential property in their countries. In China, it's not possible for non-residents to buy dwellings in Shanghai or Beijing because the Chinese government is protecting the interests of local residents in those communities against instability in the housing market, denying citizens and residents in those cities from actually being able to access affordable housing. And most recently, Mr Chairman, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, said that there was no doubt in his mind that foreign buyers were driving up house prices in Vancouver and Toronto, and shortly afterwards the provincial government of British Columbia implemented a 15% stamp duty, in British Columbia to try to deal with the massive influx of overseas money that has destabilised the Vancouver housing market and made it, like Auckland, one of the most unaffordable housing markets in the world. The other interesting development on this issue happened a few weeks ago when every one of the major trading banks in this country announced that they were ceasing lending to non-resident foreign buyers of residential property. Every single one of the banks. And their parent banks in Australia have done exactly the same thing. Would the banks who have billions and billions of dollars of skin in the game, who lend tens of billions of dollars to home buyers in New Zealand every year, would they do that if foreign buyers were not a significant presence? Of course they wouldn't. It was the final blow to the credibility of this national government and its denial that foreign buyers are a problem in the residential property market. Mr Chairman, what Part 5 does is that it amends the Overseas Investment Act and it inserts a new category of property, overseas investment in residential property. And what it does is that it says that it applies the same definitions that exist in the Overseas Investment Act that determine whether a person or a company or a trust is to be regarded as foreign, that is if it has 25% or more ownership or control that is not a New Zealand citizen or New Zealand resident. And then it makes it clear that, an overseas entity cannot buy an existing property, but they could build a new one. And that is the policy that we have here. That is the policy of the Australian Federal Government, and we think it makes a lot of sense, sir. We believe that this is not the most overused phrase in the housing debate. This is not a silver bullet, but it is something that will make a significant difference to what is an extremely overheated housing market that has a tendency to a housing bubble. Thank you.
Members, I'm going to give a ruling with respect of the point of order raised by the Honourable Mike Woodhouse, and I accept that the reason behind this particular legislation, which is sought to be amended by this part, may have, or seems to apparently have, two distinct philosophical reasons as to why it is there. One of them is to limit the ownership of land in New Zealand to foreign buyers, and the other is that it would have an effect on the affordability by removing foreign buyers from the market. The test as to whether or not it's in scope or not is the debating point as to whether or not, if this part was to be accepted and to go on and amend the bill, whether or not it could have a dampening effect or the effect of making more affordable houses available in the market. And so by reason of that, having listened to the points of order, having taken advice from the clerk's office, that I'm going to rule it in scope. Point of order. The Honourable Mike Woodhouse.
And thank you for your considered judgment. I certainly don't intend to labour this point, but I will ask for one point of clarification, which I didn't raise earlier. In an omnibus bill, by and large, more than one bill is being amended, and an SOP, by and large, is designed to amend the bill being debated. What we now appear to have is a ruling that because two bills are being debated and amended in the single piece of legislation, that any other piece of legislation could now be proposed for amendment because we now have the Income Tax Act, the Overseas Investment Act and the Resource Management Act all effectively within scope here, notwithstanding that they have nothing to do with the bill being debated. I just want to clarify that the point now is that it's open slather on SOPs.
Well, the members choosing this particular time to give us the pearls of their wisdom have chosen to do so during the taking of a point of order, and they shouldn't do that. I hear the member's point of order. I don't agree for a moment that it is open slather, that matters will have to be on point. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which side of the House you sit on, actually it was the terms of this bill were very broad. And it certainly, if somebody wants to seek a clarification or to seek a further ruling, then that is open to them. I've given my ruling and I'm prepared to stand by that. I accept that there are other heads in the game, and if the member wishes to take that and seek a review of my ruling, then I'm quite happy for that to happen.
Just plain Mick.
The Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.